Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's selection comes at us from Trevor. Hey Bryan, if you could please, I'd love to hear you react to Paysage d'hiver again, but a different track that came out after Schnee. The title is Schlüssel from the album Das Tor. So, that's what we're checking out. If I remember anything about Paysage d'hiver, it is black metal. And as you can see, 18 and a half minutes of black metal. I've tried to amp myself up for this. It's the last thing I have to record today. I think I would have put it off regardless. Maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe there's some elements about this group that I don't remember that will work for me a little bit better than black metal typically does. Regardless, let's dive in like we do with this and see what they're bringing to the table today. We have a drone on the outside, I think. And then the three notes in the middle. Oh, there's four notes on the last part of the phrase. So we have a small uplift. There's a little shimmering thing over on the right. It kind of sounds like cymbal work? Maybe. I don't know what it is. It's these quick groupings of 2/16 notes. All of these sections based on 3-chord ideas. So far, I think the harmonic element of the entire song is kind of interesting, but each individual idea is so static. I feel like this is supposed to be a really emotional section, given that we've shifted from alternating snare and bass to blast beats. And I think the scream was more projected than usual. But, I mean, as usual, the compression just removes all characteristic. Anything that would be identifiable as something is just shaved down to the most bare essence of the sound that it just becomes meaningless. See, like, I think that's supposed to be some sort of pained yell, but it's so obscured by the production that what I think would have been really emotionally connecting, something that I could attach myself to, is just devoid of any of that emotion. It makes it really difficult for me to connect with this type of lo-fi black metal in any meaningful way. The synths are probably the best part of this, as they are impervious to the production. They sit in more of a mid-fi realm that is quite understandable. Almost 10 minutes of hyper focus on a singular idea. Harmonic evolution, I think, throughout that idea on some level, but rhythmically, atmospherically, foundationally, it's one thing for almost 10 minutes. I wonder if any of this is built off of the harmonic devices that formed the first 10 minutes. I mean, it's pretty. It's a simple but effective idea. I like the field recordings of the wind in the backgrounds. I just need something to happen though. This is a solid foundation. Let's build something on it. Now, this is not only the ending to the song, it's the ending to the album. There's only 4 tracks on it. All of them run in double digits. This is only the second longest one. Interestingly, also the least played on the album, at least through Spotify. So it's possible that this extended wind has callbacks maybe to the beginning of the album. Maybe it's a concept that has come up throughout the entire album. Maybe it's lyrically important. It is very gratuitous, though, as is my feelings about most of this song. I will say, if nothing else, I think this is the first time I've been asked to sit through 4-5 minutes of wind and give some thoughts about the wind. Still waiting for somebody to do a special selection for Cage's 433. Oh, come on. There's still a minute left. Although I think that, oh no, it didn't break. Spotify just dropped connection for a second. No, the song just abruptly ends though. 59 seconds left of silence. We'll run it to the end. I don't cut any tracks short just in case. I am curious what's going on with the Spotify API though. That missing a few seconds here and there, that's pretty normal. It dropping for 20 plus seconds at a time though. Maybe their servers are getting hammered. Maybe their servers are getting hammered. I heard a click. Okay. I feel really bad about this because I don't know that I have too much to say unique to this track. It is black metal, at least for the first 10 minutes of the song. It's lo-fi, atmospheric, black metal, 16th notes at quite a tempo. Each of the sections has a harmonic resonance to it that is formed by 3 notes. Eventually we do hit dyads, still focusing on just 3 notes per section though, and we will stick with those 3-note movements for minutes at a time before shifting to a new set of 3 notes. And there is vocals in here, I think. I heard something that sounds akin to hyper compressed harshes, but honestly, I don't know because it just sounds like static most of the time. The production is lo-fi, as I mentioned. It's very staticky, very compressed, very snowy. Makes it difficult to parse out details. Fortunately, the synth that pops up around the 4 or 5 minute mark that sits outside of the band also sits outside of the production. It provides us some clear harmonic work. And then, of course, from 10 minutes on, the production clears up a bit because it's just that synth. But I want to focus on just the opening 10 minutes for a second. I wish I had more criticism for it, more analysis for it. At best, assuming that it is hand played and not MIDI drums, which I think this is a one-person band, and we frequently find that drumming in one-person black metal bands tends to be programmed. But if it's not, it is... the endurance on display is phenomenal. The same goes for the guitar work. Maybe there's a bass in here, maybe there's not. I didn't hear one. But the guitar work is just constant 16th notes at this faster tempo for 10 minutes straight. Again, the endurance of the entire thing is impressive. But when it comes to engaging with the music, I can barely hear what the music is. This is very, very lo-fi stuff. There are these 3-note groups. I can hear that there are pitch changes. I cannot really hear those pitches though in order to ascertain any sort of emotional resonance between these 3 notes, and 3 notes really isn't a lot of information to go on as far as chords or keys or scale or any sort of harmonic information other than the fact that I've heard 3 notes. The dyads do introduce a little bit more information, but again, it's really difficult to hear that through the noise. Eventually, the synth comes in, and it just kind of, it's got a general pentatonic sound to it. It sounds kind of dark at times, but there's also an uplift at one point that brings a more positive energy to the song. I don't have a strong read on it other than this one's a bit negative, this one's a bit positive. That's really all the information I'm getting out of it. And that's my take on the first 10 minutes of the black metal portion. It's a bit reductive and shallow, but as I mentioned during the reaction, the heavy compression, the lo-fi element of this shaves off so much of that unique timbre from all of the instruments. It shaves off all of the emotional components and compresses it down just to this core bass tone. It removes all of the emotional elements and just gives this raw, unaffected sound. And to me, that removes all the emotion from it. Now, that's a subjective take. Some people listen to black metal and they get very emotional about it. That's perfectly fine, But when I listen to black metal, as I mentioned earlier, especially lo-fi black metal, especially atmospheric black metal that tends to shy completely away from melodic writing, I can't connect with it on any level, on any wavelength. I'll be honest. This was 10 minutes of boredom for me. From both a critical and a casual lens, there just isn't anything for me to really latch onto here. It sort of reminds me I have a friend had a friend back in college days who really loved clubs and dance music, right? Just the really simple boom, 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 just like a simple melody line, couple of notes repeated over and over and over, and that four on the floor beat, and maybe once every 2 minutes a little ornamental idea, or maybe they'll change one of the pitches in the thing, and they'll just listen to this music for, entire car rides, and it drives me bonkers. It just doesn't change. It doesn't do anything of interest for me. It's fine for a couple of minutes, but it kind of irritates me to listen to for long stretches of time, and this is very much like that, where I'm sure people can listen to this and absolutely love it and enjoy it, and to me it's just one idea over and over and over and over, seemingly infinity. And it just drives me bonkers because there just isn't anything for me to latch onto. It's a neat idea. Do something with it. That's that's my subjective feeling while listening to most of this. Is you have a neat foundation here. Do something with it. Add something on top of it. Give me something to connect with. And they just don't. It's not the style of music they're going for. And so to me, it's a very frustrating listen. And it's frustrating in a very different way than when we started. There was a part in here, probably about 4 minutes in, and I snapped back to the first time y'all had me check out Crowless. And I remember how overwhelmed I was and how drained I was. It was like 15, 20 minutes maybe of similar music to this, a higher production quality, higher fidelity, but still black metal, 16th notes, alternating bass and kicks, just fast playing for a long time. And I found it very overwhelming and exhausting, but for a different reason, because at that time it was sonic overload. Black metal is slowly just becoming this point where it's background music for me. This isn't even really exhausting. I didn't want to listen to it. I kept waiting for the next cool thing to pop up, and it just never did. And so I don't know, man. Black metal as a genre is cool. It is boundary pushing. It does wild stuff. But much like that generic house dance music that my friend used to listen to, this is just sort of a generic black metal. It doesn't do any of the cool things the genre can do. It just goes for that baseline concept, the very simplest thing black metal does, and does it over and over and over and over and over. And again, I don't want to throw shade. I'm not some sort of music gatekeeper. I'm not going to say that this isn't music, or if you like this, you have, poor taste in music or whatever. I'm not like some other music critics on the YouTubes. If you like this, fantastic. Who am I to tell you it's bad or anything? But it is not my cup of tea, and furthermore, I kind of don't get it. There are some elements, some styles of black metal where I'm like, yeah, I can totally see how this is cool, how someone enjoys this. Even though it's not my cup of tea, I can appreciate these elements of it. But for this, the only thing I really get out of it is the atmosphere. And I don't find that to be particularly engaging. If you do, again, that's fine. But I find it difficult to even appreciate the atmosphere on this one, which is interesting. But I think it really comes down to the simplicity and repetition, which leads me into the back half of the track, which honestly is just more of the same with a different sonic template. Instead of the heavy compression, we have this synth pad, but the idea is the same. You pick three notes, you cycle between them. Every once in a while, you change what those three notes are. You're building atmosphere out of a very limited palette, and if you dig it, you dig it. If you don't, there's not much here to pull anybody in. And so, earlier I had mentioned that it feels very indulgent. I don't think that was the word I used, but synonym for that. I don't think that this earned its 18-minute runtime. Possibly. You're listening to this on a beanbag. You enjoy black metal. I think that is one of the first big buy-ins for this, which it's a really big hurdle to get over. But if you enjoy black metal, this probably becomes a lot more palatable than someone in my situation. But you enjoy black metal, you're sitting on a beanbag chair, something comfy, you got your headphones on, lights are out, and you're just allowing it to wash over you. Maybe the ending has a bit of catharsis to it. And again, I mentioned maybe the ending has context within the album. I'm only getting a quarter of this album's runtime here, and it's the last quarter. I have none of the build up into this. But devoid of that, as a first time reaction to this, I didn't think the first 10 minutes earned its runtime. I certainly don't think the last 8 minutes did, as it was one idea on top of field recording, which I thought the field recording was a neat twist. I think that really adds to the atmosphere of the section. It just did not justify 8 minutes worth. Cut it down to 3, cut it down to 2. 2.5 minutes of the synth over the wind, 30 to 45 seconds of the wind, call it a day. That's how I feel about it. I'm sure I'm going to be called out for being cynical about this track, and I'm trying to be as balanced as I can, attempting to appreciate it on the levels that I think it excels at, which is atmosphere, and possibly this idea of being taken on a journey, of being pushed to your limits sonically, and then finding this release in the synth pad and the wind. It's a neat idea. I think on paper this is a solid track. The execution just leaves quite a bit wanting for me. The production doesn't help me. The lack of evolution in the music doesn't help me, and the heavy use of repetition for the length of time doesn't help me either. I'm going to have some lyrics. See if that changes my mind about any of this. Yeah, and that's not really helping too much either. I have the original German, but I also have a translation, hopefully not from Google or DeepL or anything like that. Hopefully this is hand translated, but it also doesn't really make a ton of sense to me, so maybe there are some elements in it that just didn't translate well or weren't translated well if it was done by, Google Translate or something. But it speaks about wandering through a snowy field and finding him. Again, I'm lacking the context of the other songs. Maybe this is a concept album. But it never explains who this him is. It says that they're silver shimmering in the snow, drifting at the seeming, the most inconspicuous place in this world. Unsuccessful in the search of the castle, he finds small and unimpressive is his goal in the greatest. See, there's some roughness of the translation here. It doesn't quite flow well, but that could also be the way that it's designed to be. I don't really know. We just got done listening to a song from Kraftwerk that was a bunch of isolated ideas, little phrases that the listener had to piece together how they all fit. That was a bit more apparent about what was missing and how to add that in mentally. This one is a little bit less, and that could be by design, or it could be part of the translational issues. But anyways, it says he takes everything and gives it all. He opens and no one is able to conclude. He closes and no one can open. My soul shines in the light of the polar star as a mirror of its light. The inner emptiness fulfill me deeply. Powerless, I experience the greatest power. I open the gate and enter the hall of ice. Presumably this is the end of the song, but I honestly have no idea where the vocals sit. So I kind of had the idea that the vocals were done long before we hit the 10-minute mark, and it was an extended instrumental that took us to the second part of the track. But maybe there were some vocals there at the end. Again, I don't know. The production doesn't allow you to know. So, assuming though, he enters this hall of ice, and then we have the outro to the track. That's a nice little thing there. I like the way that flows. What all of this means, I don't know. I feel like I'm missing so much context to this. What is this castle? Why was this guy looking for it? Who is this guy? Is the guy dead? It says he found him in the snow in the most inconspicuous place in the world, which is, where is that? I have a lot of questions about what's going on here, and so, once again, I don't have a strong context for it to connect with it in any meaningful way, which is what a parallel with the music. Sometimes we check these out and I'm like, oh, the lyrics actually make a lot of sense. I wish the music did. But no, there's no schism here. My experience reading the lyrics is the same as my experience listening to the music. So to me, this is a very cohesive experience for me. Everything just sort of clicks. I also don't really think that these lyrics make sense with the vocal delivery. But again, I don't feel, it feels very dispassionate, these lyrics right here. The vocals are screamed, and while I don't really have much of an emotional connection to the end production of the vocals, they are still screamed. To me, that implies emotional connectivity. It implies desperation. It implies extreme emotions. These lyrics don't. And maybe some of that emotion got lost in the translation. That's possible too. I think I'm just going to end on that note. Nothing really makes sense to me. Everything seems to be at odds with itself. And I know that's not the way it is for people who enjoy this music. Everything here just clicks for them. And I kind of wish I could get to that area in a sense. But it also, I don't think it'll ever happen. Y'all have been trying to get me to enjoy black metal for 4 years now. We're closing in on 5. And the closest I get is the fringes, the experimental, the avant-garde, where black metal fuses with other things. And I tend to like the black metal as an interesting flavor amongst a different type of style, in a way that tends to remove some of the cold, impassionate elements of black metal and infuse the emotional side of other styles of music. And I think that really boils it down. I never really thought of that before, but black metal just feels emotionless to me all the time. Emotionless is maybe dispassionate. It doesn't really care. It's apathetic. I think that's it. Black metal feels apathetic to me. And sometimes I think that works, but most of the time, it just puts a barrier between me and the song. And that's not a good way to get me engaged with it. So, I guess maybe this was a little bit of a different video than usual, but those are my thoughts on Paysage divers Schlüssel. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced the title of the song every single time I've said it. I think I've said it 3 different ways now. But it is German, and German is a language I am very much less familiar with, both of how to create the sounds, but also what kind of sounds to make. French being a Romance language, it's a bit more natural for me. And the name of the band is in French, even though the lyrics and the title are in German. So I think that's interesting. I always find it fascinating when an artist decides to use a lot of different languages in everything across their music. Song titles, album titles, band titles, lyrics. I think it's an interesting thing to incorporate stuff like that. So yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Do you agree with anything of what I said? Do you disagree with anything of what I said? I'm sure some black metal purists are going to tell me that I'm totally wrong here, and that's perfectly fine. You know, I'm barely a metalhead. I'm certainly not a black metalhead. My opinion is both more valid because of that and less valid because of that. So let me know your opinion on this track. What does it mean to you if you really enjoy this? You know, what makes it stand out for you? What is it about this track that just makes you go, yeah, I got to put that on repeat? Because I'm honestly curious. When it comes to tracks like this that just elude me on every level, I want to know what other people get out of it. I do. It genuinely, it's a genuine curiosity for me. So yeah, throw all those comments, thoughts, opinions, perspectives, mean things to say about me down there in the comments section. I know it's coming. I know it's coming. I'm gonna get flamed a few times on this. Um, Above that, in the description box, there's a link to Linktree. You can find this menu when you click on it. There's links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Yes, even if you didn't like what I had to say, you could still like the video, right? That'd be nice. We can be nice to each other. Oh, this is the internet. YouTube, even worse. We're not nice to each other around here. I try my best to cultivate a community that is, though. Where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We're going to continue on with this week's theme and check out another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.